Okay, so here we are in section 2.3, and this is really where we start getting into some financial functions. Now, first of all, you need to understand what a loan is and what loan payments are. A loan, of course, is money that you borrow from a lender at a certain interest rate that it needs to be paid off over time. Now, there are many different ways of structuring business loans, but the kind of loan that we're talking about here, which is the loan structure that you would have for a typical term loan on a home, a loan on a home is called a mortgage, or a loan on a car. If you've got a car payment of $500 a month for your $30,000 Subaru or whatever it is that you've got, right? These are loans that are paid off through a series of equal payments that eventually amortize the loan down to zero. And I don't want to go into the details of how you create an amortization table in this class. We will when we do finance and capital budgeting, but for this class and for this purpose, I just want to touch on the topic that you have basically a standard. In this case, the example that they give is an annual payment, a 10-year loan on $100,000. It gives you an annual payment of $12,950 over 10 years. And each year, the loan applies to the principal on the remaining balance until it goes down to zero, and you have a principal payment which is equal to your beginning principal balance, and your loan is written down to zero. So that is how amortization works in general. We can go into that in more detail if you're really curious. But what I want to do is discuss how you come up with this payment number. Now, there's a big complicated formula, of course, but in Excel, there's just a simple little function that we use. It's a PMT function. Functions in Excel have arguments associated with them. Arguments are the things within the parentheses that are like what you're referring to within the function. These are the arguments that you have to have for your payment. The interest rate, and I should note that the interest rate is usually given in terms of the annual interest, and usually we want to know the monthly payment, so you have to divide it by 12. The number of periods, likewise, if you've got a 30-year mortgage and you want to know what the monthly mortgage payment is, then you got to multiply 30 times 12 to get to the number of periods. And the present value, which is the amount that you're borrowing. When you are calculating the payment on a loan of $165,000 or any positive number, and you want to get to a positive number for your payment, right? So this is a loan inflow, cash inflow, and you want to know how much is the cash outflow. Logically, the payment should be a negative number. However, if you want to see the payment as a positive number, which we normally do, then you have to give the argument of the present value of the loan as a negative number. So, to calculate the monthly payment, then, here's what you do. Equals, and then you go PMT, and it will prompt you for the arguments, right? So, as we said, the rate is going to be 1/12, right? So this is your monthly interest rate, which is 1/12 of your annual rate. Give a comma to indicate that now we're moving on to the next argument in the logical function. Okay, our number of periods is the 30 years times 12, because we have a monthly payment. We're not interested in the amount of years. And then the present value is going to be a negative 165, and we don't have to do the rest of the arguments to get a valid number here. There it is. So it's going to be 885.76. Right, so again, the book is going into a little bit more detail than is really necessary to do the payment function. So that's how you figure out your mortgage payments. That's $885 a month. Okay, so the next thing that we're doing is calculating a lease payment. A lease is a little different from a loan, right? A loan, you're going to pay off the entirety of the amount that you borrow. With a lease, you can get a really low monthly payment because you're basically only financing the difference between the price of the car and what you are hopefully going to be able to sell it for at the end, sell it back to the dealer at the end. So that's a residual value. You're basically, those of you who remember this from financial accounting, what you're doing is you're financing the depreciation. So you say, I'm going to buy a car for $20,000. I'm going to assume that I can sell it after 48 months or 4 years for 12. And I'm going to get a lease on that $8,000 for 3%. And so our payment is going to be, we're going to do the same the same function, but now we have to do the future value as well. The future value is the residual value. So our rate is going to be monthly is our interest divided by 12. So that's every month we have that much. It's 48 months. So we don't have to, because this is already in months, we don't have to multiply that by 12. The present value is this $20,000 that we are borrowing now. We want that to be a negative number. And then the future value, right, so the present value is how much we're buying the car for, essentially. The future value, or the residual value, is how much we're going to be able to sell it for at the end. And then you can give it a type. It doesn't really matter all that much. It defaults to 1. And so that'll be our monthly payment. Now, I should note, personal caveat. What do you suppose is the likelihood that you're going to be able to sell a $20,000 car for $12,000 after 4 years? I think that's probably not all that likely. That is how these lease companies take advantage of people. You never get that kind of residual, so you wind up having to buy the car and finance the rest of it at the end of that 4-year period. And I don't know about you, but I get tired of paying car payments. I wouldn't want to have a 4-year car payment and then still owe money on the car. So that is a little personal caveat. The other piece that is included in this section, in section 2.3, is how to refer to cells from different worksheets. So this is going to be very, very important as we move into the budgeting section of our managerial accounting class. So let's go to the other page, the budget summary. And this is where where you can refer to the total amounts in all the different worksheets. So all you need to do is to refer to these cells. So in our expenses, right, so you just pick that up, go to our budget detail, right, and our total annual spend here is $17,950. You just refer to that cell, hit enter, it takes you back to our budget summary, and as you can see, what this shows is the other worksheet in single quotations with an exclamation point at the end, and tells you where to get it from. Do the same thing. Go in and get your annual mortgage payments. So here's $885, and you can multiply that times 12 to get the total for the year. That's going to get us $10,629. Likewise, with our lease payments, we want to pick those up for the whole year. So that's going to be our total, our lease payment times 12. Okay, and then our total planned spend, and this is just a sort of a formatting convention, right? You have all your subcomponents here, and then you put the total in the same column D, as the big number. So let's see, we'll pick that up as a sum of these guys over here. 31,059. The difference then is going to be the total income for the year minus the total planned expenditures for the year. So at the end of the year, you should be $1,942 in to the good. However, that isn't taking into account anything like, unplanned emergencies or anything. So we should be able to have some money left over at the end of the year with our plans. And that, my friends, is how you do basic financial budgeting. More for Chapter 3 coming up next.